way too many fans had too much hope way too late.
Oh, down to the wire where it was like, yeah, it's a done deal. It's been a done deal since the trade deadline, more or less.
Yeah.
We're still holding out hope of, hey, if we just win every season, every series, the rest of the season, hey, if we just sweep the next 9 games, we're in.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
And I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a die-hard fan who vividly remembers Longo's Game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs and Carl Crawford,
we are here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 6th season covering the Rays.
And up till now, they went to the playoffs every year. But there's still baseball going on, so gives you an excuse to grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah! The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today.
Can I just acknowledge how weird it feels to not have the Rays in the playoffs? Because literally, since we've been doing this podcast, as we mentioned in the intro, the Rays have been in the dance. Now, of recent years, they've gotten eliminated more quickly than we expected, but there was so much hype, pomp, and circumstance of there's always a chance, and there's absolutely no chance this year for the Rays because they didn't even finish 500. So it does have a different feeling, I would say.
Have you, I think it would operate differently. I know there was a mathematical chance even to the last week of the season. I understand.
Yeah, it was down to like a 0.6%, then 0.2%, then 0.1%. And at some point we just had to say, all right, let's knock it off. They're not doing it.
Right. And so I think the second week of August or first week of August, we're like, they're done, people. Pack it in. It's not happening this year. I feel like that is a better feeling than what the Diamondbacks had to endure, which is like to the last day of the season, like you're there. Like,
right.
I feel like that hurts a little bit more. We've kind of grieved the fact that we're not going to the playoffs. I mean, I know I see a lot of social media stuff, and it's like some Rays fans are like, geez, man, like, well, come on, are you watching the same team that we are? Like,
oh, so you're suggesting that people are saying that the 2024 team was better than their record indicated?
What I'm saying is that way too many fans had too much hope way too late.
Oh, down to the wire where it was like, yeah, it's a done deal. It's been a done deal since the trade deadline, more or less.
Yeah.
We're still holding out hope of, hey, if we just win every season, every series, the rest of the season, hey, if we just sweep the next 9 games, we're in.
You're right. It's like, well, have you seen the 130 games prior to this? They're not doing that. They're not built to do that. So,
they're built to score 2 runs or less every game.
Small sample size, people. It's not there. Look at a large sample size. So, yeah, it is weird. It is weird. And now you've got a bracket, which is incredibly fun, interesting. Yeah. Should we start with, are you watching any of these games? Are you going to be watching any of these games?
So I will be watching, but I will be honest, at this point, I have not invested heavily in viewing the playoffs. It's more so been background noise and highlights just because I've had a busy work schedule, other things to do, the Rays not being in it, football season starting, other sports seasons starting. But I think as we get deeper into the playoffs, especially when the championship series ramps up, and then, of course, the World Series ramps up, then I will be more tuned in. It's hard for me to really invest in a best of 3 wild card series, I'll be honest, if it's not the Rays.
Yeah, especially when you see so many sweeps already.
Yes.
At the time of recording, there are 2 sweeps already that have happened, and one that could potentially happen in like an hour. So
yeah,
it's nuts, man.
That's the question is, and we put it out on social media. We'll get to some comments here, but with the Rays out of it, who are you maybe not necessarily rooting for or cheering on, but you'd rather see this team do well in the playoffs versus that team do well in the playoffs? And early returns suggest that, hey, the Astros are out, which is always good news, and AL East foe, the Orioles, are out. So I guess if there's a silver lining, it's kind of cool, interesting, unique to see the Tigers and Royals advance respectively, because it has been quite a bit of time for both those teams to make it to the playoffs and perform in the playoffs. And they bring kind of a gritty underdog story to them. They're not one of these teams that is spending $250, $300 million on a payroll and laden with free agent star power.
Yeah, I mean, you can put like 10 Tigers players' salaries, and it doesn't even match. I mean, what? Let's pick a player: Josh Hader, Jose Altuve. Like, it doesn't. It's pretty nuts. And so many things happen with those 2 series because number one, Houston Astros, the ALCS streak is over.
Oh boy.
So what's happening there, Houston? Number 2. You get a Tigers team that was in the negatives as late as August 10th. They were below 500. And now look at them. They're going into the ALDS and they beat the big bad Astros.
Maybe that's why Rays fans had so much hope of, hey, if you just kind of
you get
into, you can win 85, 86 games and still shoot your shot, so to speak.
The issue with, and you're right, but the issue with that is that the Tigers played like a really good ball club the last 40 games.
They put it on. And that's the thing is you get hot at the right time. It's tough to be stopped. When it comes to the playoffs, your regular season record more or less goes out the window.
Yeah. And on the other side, with the Royals and the Orioles, so cool to see the Royals get over that hump of just very bad regular baseball for like 8 years. So that's good to see. And there's a plus
last year too. Like, think about the turnaround they had from last year to this year. They lost 106 games last season. They had to change. They won 30 more games this season than last season. Normal thinking would suggest that, okay, a team loses 105, 106 games in a season. It's going to take them 3 or 4 years to get off the schneid and rebuild, so to speak. But it was a quick ramp up for them, which is a cool story to see.
It's a great story. And we've lived it as, Devil Rays fans. Like, it's pretty cool. The other thing I like about this sweep over the Orioles is obviously an AL East foe. You never want them to do well. And second of all, I believe that there was a starting pitcher who used to pitch for the Rays, and after his first outing in Baltimore, he said something along the lines of, "Oh, it was so good. The crowd was way louder than it was in Tampa." Well, did that crowd help again, or nah, fam?
Are you talking about Mr. Eflin?
Mr. Eflin, yep.
Wow.
That sucks, man.
Yes, it does. We have more to discuss on the playoffs and kind of some of the more interesting storylines, teams that we're interested in watching. I think, Ulises, we can agree on the terms that we are absolutely rooting against the Yankees and maybe some other teams as well. I'm going all underdog with this one, and teams that have some, a bulldog mentality, so to speak, that don't just aren't winning because of just dollar signs. And we'll talk about that. But first, we have to tell the audience something important.
We have to tell you that if you're rooting for any of these underdogs, how about going to that underdog city? How about going to Milwaukee? How about going to Detroit? How about going to Kansas City? Kevin went to Kansas City. Did you like Kansas City?
I did like Kansas City. Different in terms of, I guess it wasn't as busy traffic-wise as Tampa and hustling and bustling as some other communities, but I guess that's also part of the charm as well.
Well, maybe it's time for people to taste the baseball competition stadium's cuisine or the city's cuisine. Were you able to get some barbecue while you were in Kansas City?
Did have some barbecue. Was not quite impressed. Did not live up to the hype. That could have been a byproduct of us just picking the wrong places. So if and when we go back to Kansas City, I think we'll have to take some of the other recommendations that were given to us.
Well, guess what? With Booking.com, you always are going to get exactly what you want. You get the right U.S. stay for you, and Booking.com can help you book a stay that's close to your home team's or your rival stadium. So guess what? Today, go to Booking.com, download the app, get over that grief of Rays baseball not happening in October, and you can book a hotel that looks over another stadium, okay? And forget about it. You can have a breakfast stay, a family resort, whatever it is. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rival. So today, go to Booking.com, Booking.yeah.
We also want to tell you to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on the YouTubes or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sticking on the Tigers and Royals for just a second, do want to note the Tigers. If there's something that the Rays can maybe look to from a positive angle, it's the fact that Tigers, low payroll, 26th in baseball, but it's not like they have that great of an offense. They get away with their pitching, 4th in ERA this season, 23rd in baseball, tied for 23rd in baseball in team OPS. So it kind of goes back to my theory that you add a half-decent piece, couple half-decent pieces in the offseason, and you move up the ranks instead of being 29th or 30th in team OPS and some of these other categories, move up 5, 6, 7 notches, and you should hopefully be a playoff team. Now, I also know that, the Tigers play in a different division than the Rays, but I just wanted to throw that out there as, I think major changes need to be made, but it's not like there has to be this expectation of being, going from the worst offense to the best offense in all of baseball. And I mean, it really can't get much worse, because I think I read somewhere where in the entire Devil Rays history, this was the franchise worst offense. And we're talking about some really, really bad teams over the course of their history.
I'm pretty sure it's the worst in the Rays era, for sure, from 2008 till now, 100%. Devil Rays era, maybe one or two could stick out there, but I think it's in the podium.
Yeah,
and
it's on the podium.
That's bad. You said the Tigers don't have a strong offense, and you're right, 23rd in OPS. I don't have again, OPS does not take into account park factors.
Correct.
So that would be OPS plus. But imagine that Comerica Park is so big in comparison to the Trop. I would feel like it's more of a pitcher's park than Tropicana Field. And so, ergo, imagine how bad the Rays offense is, that a team in a much harder stadium to hit, they're still way above you in OPS. We would have to see the OPS plus, and maybe it's not that much of a difference, but that's the first thing that catches my eye.
That's a good point. That's why Nick Castellanos was always complaining when he was in a Tigers uniform. If it's hard to hit home runs, I can hit a lot of doubles, but getting them over the fence is a much different challenge.
Parentheses here, and just like a little footnote and Venezuelan bump footnote here. Dude, Miggy would have gotten 600 if he didn't play at Detroit. Like, easy.
And then you have I would imagine it's harder to hit dingers in cold weather too. And Detroit's going to be cold the first month and a half, 2 months of the season. So you got that working against you as well. And then with the Royals, of course, bump to Matt Quatrero, the manager who's doing yeoman's work. We also got Tommy Pham on the team, up a couple other X-Rays on the roster as well. And obviously who will likely be the runner-up in the AL MVP, Bobby Witt, who is, I'm not even lying or joking here. He is a 9-10 WAR player this season. And whenever I think of Bobby Witt, I just think about Wander Franco, because those were kind of the 1-2 prospects in prior years. And their careers have definitely gone in different directions. And even if Wander Franco was healthy and available and productive, I'm not even sure he'd put up a 9 or a 10 win season like Bobby Witt is doing, because Bobby Witt brings as good of a hit tool as Wander, but he's got more pop as well. So that's working in his favor. Plus the glove. I mean, at 24 years old, to be putting up these types of numbers, it just makes you think for a little bit.
And I mean, what, you're looking at a top 3 MVP finish for him this year. So
top 3, yep.
It's I mean, good for them. I mean, these are 2 fun teams.
Yes.
These are 2 fun teams. The issue that I have on this side, Detroit goes against Cleveland, Royals go against the Yankees. Anything can happen in baseball. We know that, and we should know that even more thorough than other fan bases, because of what we have lived as Rays fans. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. However, if you look at Detroit against Cleveland, and then Royals against Yankees, and then both of those winners will go into the ALCS and then to the World Series, it seems to me like I'm dreading the worst here, that the Yankees have a very manageable path to the World Series, and it's like my worst case scenario ever.
That's fair. I don't like it, but I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I guess if you're the Royals, look, it's hard to contend with what the Yankees are putting forward in star power, but the Royals at least have the pitching staff to get deep through a game for an entire series. I mean, they're 1 through 4. There's not a weak arm in that bunch, highlighted by Cole Reagans. I mean, if you look at what Seth Lugo put forth this season, Brady Singer as well, and then Michael Wacha, who I guess having a career here with the Royals of all things. It's going to make me want to tune in again and root against the Yankees. I'm not necessarily rooting for the Guardians. I'm more of, if we're looking just at American League strictly, we'll get to the National League in just a moment, but I'd be satisfied Kansas City or Tigers. And even going forward beyond that, I would say as much as MLB and all the networks and all the media outlets would love a Philly, Yankees, Dodgers World Series, I would just vomit at the sight of that, because I at the very least, I want to see an underdog. I want to see an underdog. I want to see a David versus Goliath story. So give me Kansas City versus Philly. Give me Detroit versus Dodgers, and I would be okay in that respect. So just
100%. You always have to have an underdog, because like if not, it gets stale. I want to watch the games, and there's nothing worse than just seeing 2 teams you don't like. Because they can't tie, if it's the Yankees, Red Sox in an ALCS, like I want them both to lose.
Right.
So that makes it a little bit difficult. But you know what doesn't make life difficult, Kevin?
What's that?
When I have green Skittles, I just can go to FanDuel. NFL fans, just like Kevin, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a bunch of hunches in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. It's a one-stop shop. Go. Okay, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Again, FanDuel.com.
We also want to tell you about another sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks, it's the best place to get real money sports action. They've even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Here's what PrizePicks does. They put their members first, I should say. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. So go ahead. Don't waste any more time here. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So good, I'll repeat it again. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, Ulises, we focused on the American League side of things. So now shifting to the National League stretch. I guess we're in agreement here based on our discussion so far that if we're going to be so-called cheering on a team or teams, we would also add the Brewers and Padres to the equation.
100%. If we're going for the underdogs, we're underdogging. Okay, this is us underdogging, and Milwaukee and San Diego make that list.
Yes.
And there's also, old friends like Willy Adames. Like, that's pretty cool.
And although right now agent year too, so he has an opportunity to make. Based on some of the dollars that Javi Baez got and Dansby Swanson got over the years. Now maybe the market's changed a little bit, but 9 figures. I don't know. I mean, I'm not his agent, but
if I would be surprised if he doesn't get a 9-figure deal, because he's the best shortstop out there available. He really is. So good for him. Imagine when he came up in 2018 that we would be having that conversation of him being the best shortstop in the free agency class. That's really cool. But right now, as we're recording, the Brewers are down, people. The Brewers are down, so they could get swept, just like the Orioles did, and just like the Houston Astros did. So who knows?
What's interesting about the Brewers, besides the Willy Adames storyline, and man, I'd love to have 32 home runs from the shortstop position and a nice walk rate to boot. But I guess I've not paid enough attention to the Brewers. I did not realize that Tobias Myers, who the Rays had traded to acquire Junior Caminero, wound up in Milwaukee, because I know he's moved to quite a few places over the years. But he is having a really, really good season, more so than I really thought, because we kind of lampooned Cleveland when they got Myers and gave up Caminero, but Myers is definitely coming to his own as almost a 3-WAR player this season. 3 ERA and 138 innings pitched. So Junior has some expectations to live up to. But I feel like the Brewers are kind of almost like the National League version of the Rays, in the sense of generally, I mean, they've been as consistent in making the playoffs over the years. They've made the dance 6 of the last 7 years, but have only advanced past the divisional round once. And they just seem to be more of a sum of their parts team versus a team laden with star power. And they also prioritize a deep bullpen. I mean, that kind of sounds familiar with the Rays' MO.
And I at first, I thought you were going to say, they're the National League version of the Rays because they like to take out their starting pitchers rather early. I'm saying that because Freddie Peralta was taken out after 4 innings and 68 pitches.
Well, when you have a deep bullpen, and you just play the game of different arm angles, different velocities, different movement, and try to trick the opposition with as many different looks as possible.
By the way, after what Kevin is saying is 1, 2, 3, 4 guys pitched right after Peralta, including, look at that, Aaron Savale with 3 innings, and 2 strikeouts. So look at that. Look at that, Aaron.
And then the other thing with the Brewers too, I know that Jackson Chourio has started to open the eyes of the nation with his play, and he's had a really good rookie year. And just looking at his numbers, I don't have them right up in front of me, but if you look at his numbers this year, that's kind of what I'm hoping for from Caminero next season. I think that would be a rather fair and not super liberal take. If he can put up numbers respective to that. I don't know if you pulled him up.
Yeah, I got him. He hit 275.
Okay.
With a 327 on base, a 464 slug, so that's a 791 OPS, a 117 OPS plus, 21 home runs, 79 RBI, 22 stolen bases. So in his first year, he's a 2020 guy. That's what that we won't see from Junior. But
no, we won't see the stolen bases. But I was thinking more the power numbers and the double numbers.
Yeah. No. I would sign up right now for that season.
Okay, that's fair.
Right now.
Yeah. Although if we talk to Evan Klosky, he's looking for 30 dingers or at least 25 dingers from Caminero next season. So
we're gonna have to challenge our buddy Evan next time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have some sort of prop bet as well. And the key to do that is you can't get hurt. You can't play 115, 120 games. You got to be available like Chourio, who played in 148 games. So I'm just throwing that out there. And then quickly on the Padres, obviously great story for them in terms of they've never won a World Series, just like the Rays and the Rockies and the Brewers and the Mariners. But Jason Adam, he was good, very good with the Rays, but he went into next year with the Padres. We're talking about a 1.01 ERA in 27 appearances. So rooting for him to do well. And then also just credit to the Padres for making an emphasis to beef up the team really since April, but even going into the trade deadline where it was like, all right, let's go out and get Arias. Let's go out and get King. Let's go out and get Cease. So they were very motivated to do that. And that's kind of their MO is they trade for players. They're willing to give up their prospects left and right, just like the Rays have experienced for better or worse.
Their trade deadline, you're right, started in April, like late April with the Arias deal in getting him from Miami. So it was pretty impressive. Also going back to Adam, that's a .62 whip. Nasty. Nasty. He's like, he turned on his Nick Anderson mode. He is Nick Anderson for San Diego Padres fans, like he was for us in 2020.
Yeah, you just hope that he's not overused by the Padres and doesn't become the same player, because that's what happened a couple years ago with Nick Anderson, where it seemed like he was definitely overused, but it was like, oh my gosh, he's out again. How often are they going to throw that? I mean, they threw him out there till his arm fell off.
Yeah, they did. And you know what? If it would have gotten a World Series championship, we would build him a statue, at least a bust in the new Tropicana field. Okay, so then we're down to Philly, and then the Dodgers going against one of these teams.
Yeah,
I mean that's not underdog. So we're sticking with these picks, right?
Yes, I'm with you there. Although I will acknowledge that it would be cool to see Ohtani in the World Series.
Yeah, me too. I know.
But it's hard to root for a team like the Dodgers. But just seeing the Ohtani factor in all of it would make it more exciting, and even more so if he was available to pitch. I don't think he's going to be able to do that. But look, he's on a very, very long-term contract. Something tells me the Dodgers will be in the World Series before his contract is up. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this year. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah.
Should we get to listener comments or maybe save them for Friday's show on who they're rooting for in the postseason?
Let's save them up, and we can start the episode that way for Friday.
All right, great. We got some cool comments from the listeners out there on the Twitter machine. So stay tuned for that. We'll have a fun Friday episode with Trivia War comments, and some more Rays baseball talk as well. We got a long off season, folks. So we got player reviews, we got look backs. We still haven't recapped our prop bets.
Yep.
A lot of fun segments coming up on the show where we can take a look at this team from a 30,000 foot view. And we're also going to try to bring on some guests as well that I think will liven up the show. So we're working on that. All right. Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen today. For your second, find Locked On MLB. Prepare for the Fall Classic with our buddy Sully, who has it all covered every single day. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.